Gentlemen, and thank you very much for taking time to join our Let's Take in the Next Step organized by the Rotary Club of Colombo Heritage. The session will target on how you should face an interview, how to overcome your challenges, and how to stand out and impress the interview board. We have an array of wonderful panelists aligned for a Q&A just after the keynote. So let me invite on stage Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa. Currently, he is the Assistant Vice President, Private Banking at one of Sri Lanka's most prominent banks, Nations Trust Bank. And he is a doctorate candidate for Doctor of Business Administration at the University of Wales, Trinity St. David, UK. Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, the floor is all yours. Before we start the session, just a kind reminder, please keep your microphones on mute so that everyone else does not get disturbed during the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas, and good evening to each and every one of you. And I hope each and every one of you are doing well and keeping safe as well. Firstly, and a big hello to my fellow panelists, Gauri, Manohari, and Sanjeev. And firstly, let me thank the Rotary Club of Colombo Heritage for inviting me to share my insights on this critical topic, especially for the young people. But before I commence my session, let me be absolutely honest. So I'm a banker by profession, as you heard. So generally bankers carry disclaimers. I think Manohari would know that. So the insights that I share, it's purely my personal views, and it does not represent my present organization, neither any organization that I was attached to in the past as well. So for the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to keep my session very brief because we have another 3 eminent panelists. So I would like to make this session much more interactive so that we can share, we can hear from them as well, rather than limiting this session only to one person, only to myself. So for clarity, I would structure this session to two sessions, and I would cover key 6 topics, not really key topics, 6 key points that I want to drive. So my colleagues, before you apply for any job, even if you prepare for your job, because as I was briefed, as I understand, my audience is, most of them are presently not employed or just got into the employment or undergrads. So that's the sort of audience that I will be, targeting. Sometimes you might, find it relevant. If it's irrelevant, please bear with us for the interest of others as well. So before you apply, or before you even prepare your CV, first you must understand what you need to do in your life. In simple terms, find what your passion is. Because I've been very vocal about Sri Lankans doing what we are passionate about. If you ask my personal opinion, why Sri Lanka as a country we have not grown, because historically we have been pushed to do rather than the things that we like, rather than we were forced to do, which our parents were expected us to do, or rather our relatives or rather society expected us to do. So I will not name those designated job categories. You know what I'm speaking about. So that's I think one of the main reason that we have not grown as a country, because when you do something that you do not enjoy, you will never ever give your 100% to what you do. You simply work for the paycheck, or to impress or satisfy someone else, without satisfying or without enjoying what you do. So my first message is, do not just apply for jobs purely considering the paycheck that you get or paycheck that you are expected to get, or maybe because of that fancy designation that that your company might throw to you. So first must understand, as young generation, what do you want to do in your, what do you want to do in your life, and what makes you really happy, right? So that's my number one criteria, rather than speaking about the CVs to how to go for interviews, how to sit and how to shake hands. So to me, the point number 2 is, then once you establish exactly what you want to achieve, then you must see whether the prospective organization carries the same values, same beliefs as you. That is, to me, it's very, very important. Because if the organization that you are willing to spend your rest of your life, I know that presently you might not work for the same organization until you retire. That era is changing, but at least you will spend good 2 to 3 years. And if you take good 60% of your time will be consumed by the or 60 to 70% of your valuable time will be consumed by your office career, right? Therefore, so it's important you understand the organization that you work for carries the same values and same beliefs as you want to achieve. So in very simple terms, let me give you an example. So if you ask, based on my values and based on my beliefs, so there's no discrimination on none of these industries, fantastic industries. We make millions and billions rupees as a revenue for the country, but every individual got their own values and belief systems. So to me, guys, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Asitha, you're clear.
Okay, someone muted me. Right. So to me, despite of the the paycheck or rather pay raise that I get, I will never ever work for a industries like tobacco, alcohol, gambling, casino, arms. So that's my, as I said, no discrimination. Absolutely, there's no discrimination. Just that those are my personal beliefs and values. So if I join to that particular industry, that's basically simply I will not be truly myself, and I will not be express myself as an individual and as an employee, and I will not be able to do my best to the organization as well as to the country as well. So that's point number 2. Your values, your beliefs should synchronize with your prospective organization that you're planning to join. So how do I understand whether my values and my beliefs are aligned with the organization? Talk to read their go through their website, talk to someone who is working there, and understand what's going on inside the company and what sort of a conduct that organization maintain, right? So that's, to me, that's the point number 2. And the point number 3 to me is, before you apply again, before you send your CV, now actually one click of a button, if you are applying through LinkedIn, or if you apply through the company portal, before you do that, I must I would recommend you to get a clarity on the exact job role, because I think these are some of the practical situations, because I also do sit for various interview boards, both within my organization as well as non-voluntary voluntary organization as well. Sometimes with certain designations, different types of designations, and some prospective candidates do get confused. So some people actually do realize that they have basically applied for the wrong job once they sit and spend about good 15 to 20 minutes for the interview, right? So that's the last thing that you wanted during my interview sessions. I have seen many disappointed candidates, because halfway through that we realized that even the some of the candidates were very honest about it as well. They have applied, what they expected was not really uh, was not the the exact job the organization is expecting. So first get a clarity about the job role, right? And there are a couple of easy things that you would do. Actually, we should not be telling this, but unfortunately, based on what I have seen, especially from the Gen Zs and how they prepare and how they come for the interviews, I must tell you this. Basics. I know that this is the information overloaded era. I mean, when we were started applying for jobs 20 years back, the era was completely different. We had dial-ups. We had to to get information, we had to wait 10 to 15 minutes to go to their website. Now in one click of a button, just a matter of few seconds, you can understand the company financials, to directors, to what are the product capabilities that they have, to everything, right? So prefer the company website and also check their digital footprint as well. Understand, what are their product offering and what do they do, what sort of industry, what they are in. Also, especially understand the expectation of the job role, and don't get carried away with the taglines or the designation. Be specific. Carefully read the job description, because I'll give you simple example. In Sri Lanka, most of the people are confused, what is sales, what is marketing. Sometimes even the organization. My fellow panelists can vouch for that for sure. Most of the organization are confused with what is sales, what is marketing. So sometimes the tagline goes as marketing executive. Generally, marketing, you don't have to. Marketing is completely different philosophy. It's not it's not sales. But when you go for the interview, you realize that, oh my God, this is something else, right? So take some time. I know the Gen Z, the new generation, is your attention curve is relatively less than the previous generation. But this is what you're going to spend your next 2 to 3 years. So rather being regret, it makes sense to read and understand exactly what the organization is expecting from you, right? So read the JD. And also, as I said earlier, the best thing is to because your digital footprint, the company digital footprint can portray something completely different. So get told to one of your friends, or maybe a relative who's working for that particular organization. Ask for a time, go and sit with them and have a chat and understand. Here, look, Mr. O, Auntie so and so, I have applied for this job. What do you think? What this role is actually all about. So the clarity of the job role, it's really matters, and do not get disappointed halfway through. Then my next point, the point number 4, is be prepared. Be prepared, not 100%, 101%. So this is something I would like to really emphasize, because I have seen how some candidates, when they come for the interviews, when we ask for example, let's say if you want to hire someone to do a specific job, and maybe let's say to sell a particular product, let's say for a sales role. So when we inquire about, okay, what do you think about the product that you're going to sell, and what is your understanding about this product against the market, and how would you take this challenge? Sometimes some candidates completely go blank, because it's nothing, and it's not about the lack of intelligence, it's not about the lack of language capability, it's purely lack of preparedness, because they have not spent adequate time to understand what this role is about. So in the eyes of the interview panel, you are a complete reject, because I don't know, different organizations may have, and different individuals may have different view. But to me, if someone is not willing to, spend 5 to 10 minutes time, at least, I mean, point blank, I mean, bluntly put it across, I'm sure, when you are invited for an interview, at least you had to wait at least, 15 to 20 minutes outside the maybe at the visitors area, right? At least, you should have the, the courtesy. To me, it's courtesy to go through the company and the company profile and understand, what are the products, what they do. Otherwise, rather than just coming for the interview and looking up or scratching your head, not going to help to get through your interview. And also, this 101% preparation also comes with this. Most of the candidates, they do speak about what they have done. That's fine, fantastic. Everyone, like to express, what they are, what they have done in the past, about the success stories. But actually, in the eyes of an interview panel, sometimes you would have done 10%, but during the interview, definitely you can come and say, hey, look, I did 100%. During that, 15 to 20 minutes of the interview, the panel may not have the time to go through, call and verify whether whether this person actually done, 100% or more than 100% what he or she was supposed to do, right? So generally, I don't get bogged down with the achievement numbers which they throw at it, unless otherwise there's a certificate to prove that, because not to mistrust, but just purely what I have what I actually went through, what I have gone through. To me, actually, I'm more interested to see, rather than describing what you have done, to express what sort of a value that you can offer to the organization. Again, again, the panel may ask certain frame question to get that relevant answers from you. But more than that, if you could be upfront and if you have done your homework, you should be able to give you a much better structured answer to impress the interview panel. So just to share one of my own experiences, or something that I have been doing throughout my career. So I never bought any of the certificates for the interview. Rather, I prepare a presentation. So what I do is I go through I read the job role and understand and go through what are the products which are which I'm supposed to sell, or which I'm supposed to develop, which I'm supposed to structure. And I do I use my academic capabilities and do various analysis and understand gaps, but I make sure not to digest any inside information. So I 100% rely on public information, because otherwise if you go and present inside information, it could be interpreted differently. So I take all the published information, public available information, and I make recommendation to how to move this product from X to X plus 1, rather than speaking about this is what I did, this is what I have done, and this is my academic qualification. If they ask, yes, I will briefly tell, but I'm more keen to express on what sort of a value that I can bring in to the organization. So again, this is not a hard and fast rule. you can adapt, any strategy that you want. Sometimes, given the context, you might not be able to do a, PowerPoint presentation, but that's fine. I mean, nowadays you can carry your iPad, or you can carry your tab, or you can carry your laptop. You are permitted to do so. If not, just go to communication, take a couple of printouts, and give 3 copies, give 1 copy each to 3 of the panelists, right? So that to me, that's a sign of a discipline. That's a sign of how much serious about the job and how much of hunger that you have. To me, that's what it demonstrates. Again, no hard and fast rule. These are some of the suggestions that you can use for you to differentiate your approach. Otherwise, everyone else is, basically just brush through at a glance about what the organization is, doing, and simply spill what they have digested during, half an hour or 25 minutes of, reading time while you were, outside until you were, taken to the room. To me, actually, that has, paid, greater dividends. I can remember even some of these, business models that I was proposed after even I was, acquired by the organization. They requested, hey, look, I can remember you did this, why not, come and, present this model to our senior management team. We are really interested to understand exactly, what's in your head, right? So that's something that I would suggest, and to take that, extra edge over other participants, other candidates, because at the end of the day, guys, whether it can be your best friend, still you're going for a war, you're going for a battle, because unemployment is on the rise, the job opportunities are limited. So it's a battle, whether we like it or not. Sometimes it can be our own brother, sometimes it can be our own sister, sometimes it can be your best friends, but hard luck, you got to compete and you got to outperform in ethical way for you to get a paycheck and to kick off your career. And my last point, rather one before the last. So this is actually, to me, one of the most critical points: integrity. I know it's, simple word. Sometimes it might not ring a bell to you, but it's, very, very important, especially in corporate structure. Forget about the corporate structure. As a professional, as an individual, your integrity really matters. So I'll give you a couple of points. Firstly, during the interviews, never ever lie. Do not pretend that, you do not pretend, and never ever lie, and express what would you like to do and truly who you are, because that's the last thing that you want to do. Because just because you sell a juicy story during the interview, the bus does not stop there. Depend on the complexity of the job role, depend on the seniority of the job role, the candidates, the organization and the interview panel, they go back and check, they go back and validate. And that's why some of you are being asked to give a point of reference to call and verify whether this person is actually capable of doing such job. So never ever lie, because the last thing what you want is you tell something else to the interview panel, and when the panel go back and when the HR go back and check with someone else, if you're X minus 1, your credibility is gone. Your credibility is gone, because integrity is one critical component in corporate structure, right? So never ever lie during organization. It's because no one expect you to answer to all the questions that they ask, because no one is perfect, neither panel of interview, neither organizations. So if you don't know for something, be straightforward and just say, I'm sorry, I don't know. If not, do not just don't beat around the bush. That will not really fly well. And under integrity, the other point is this can happen before the interview, or this can happen after the interview as well. So either way, never ever ask for undue favors. I know this sound a bit harsh, and by knowing how certain organization works, but to me, throughout my career, I mean, I've been working for the past 20 years. So other than being a professional banker, I've been a career sportsman. So sports actually will teach you a different set of values about fair play, and of course the integrity, and to treat everyone equally. So that's a greater learning that I had in my that's one of the huge influences that I had from my sporting career. So as a result, in my career I never ever ask any favors from anyone. Sometimes my close relative could be working for this organization. Sometimes my own family members could be working for organizations. But as a policy, I have never ever asked for any favor. Why? Let me explain. Yes, I mean, if you are known to someone at the top, generally in Sri Lankan context, you tend to either your parents tend to fire a call and say, hey, look, Mr. X and Y, my son or daughter is coming for the interview. Do you want to take him? Again, I love to debate on this. This is not the fair play, because multiple repercussions will be there. Sometimes you might be taken for this particular role more than over your capability or the competency based on the push that you had. So as a result, you may not be able to perform at an optimum level during your career. And also, just imagine if you are taken, if there were another 2 or 3 more high potential candidates which are much capable than you, which comes with much solid credential. You are basically ring fencing. You've been acted as a barrier for them. So as a result, you have produced another 2 disappointed candidates by knowing that they have done very well and they got all the required substance to get that job, and those 2 individuals also will be disappointed. And also, it's not fair for the organization as well, because organization is not getting the right talent what they need. Instead, they get the talent forced by someone else. Again, highly debatable, because I have seen some candidates, when they sit for the interview, the first thing, the general the rule of thumb, the HR, the question what they ask is, please tell us about please introduce yourself, tell us about something about yourself. I have seen certain individuals, candidates, they start with, I'm from X college, certain, Colombo-based college. And even some candidates go to the extent of, look, I'm father, or I'm the son or daughter of, X and Y. Probably, maybe in the past, those things could have worked in your favor. I mean, sometimes even now, depending on the organization, sometimes it might work. But to me, if I'm in the interview board, I'm sorry, you will be the last person that I will be. I mean, not to prejudge, but the first impression that you are creating is not really the impression that I wanted as a individual. So I know Sri Lanka being a colonial country for centuries. So still we have that certain favors for certain college, certain universities in certain organizations, certain social classes, social societies. But if you really look at it, with the new age of information, even the people who studied at Harvard, their pay could be lesser than someone who studied that relatively lower university as well. So now those things are becoming irrelevant. But to me, it's more than the rupees and cents. It got down with integrity and the fair play. To me, I really expect anyone who wants to join, it can be any corporate or any voluntary or non-voluntary organization with right values, and let that give that fair opportunity for each and every candidate. And also, but also you can be but be confident. And so my last point is, so this is what I was requested to highlight by the organizing committee. Guys, I know this is the age of information. So in simple terms, what you post become who you are. I know sometimes especially the Gen Zs, we do not take things much seriously, especially on your conduct, your behavior on social media. But the footprints what you leave, the certain comments, certain views may interpret it differently, because I have seen the people who come for interviews, and what they demonstrate is completely different when you go and check their digital footprint, because during that 15 to 20 minutes anyone can pretend for completely as a completely different person, purely to satisfy the requirement of the panel of judges, rather panel of the interview panel. So that's my take on that. We are happy to debate. These are very broader topics. So we have another 3 more colleagues as well, well experienced colleagues, so that we can have a much more broader discussion. So Nicholas, I think I'm right on time. I got another 30 seconds, so I will brief what I discussed. So ladies and gentlemen, before you apply anything, find your passion, do what you love to do. Do not do what your parents want you to do, not your relatives want you to do. Listen to your heart, do what you really love to do, otherwise you will suffer day in, day out. That's my point 1. Point 2, see whether your values and beliefs synchronize with the organization that you want to work for. If your values are different to your organization values, do not join. Wait, because the more you wait, sometimes the good things take a little bit of time. Sometimes yes, your friend or your brother, sister can get a job quite a little bit faster than you, but never mind. Wait for the right job. And third one, get the clarity about, crystal clear clarity about the job role, so that you will be able to perform better in your job role as well as the job interview as well. Point number 4, be 101% prepared. Don't give half-baked answers. Spend that additional time and try to deliver value over what you have done. That will take you a long way. And point number 5, integrity matters. As a policy, do not interfere the selection process. Let the organization do it, because take it in religion. If you have done good, if you have done good, the good things will happen to you, irrespective of what's actually going on. And the point number 6, be careful on what you post, because what you post become who you are. So thank you very much, Nicholas. My time is up. So I think we have discussed what is relevant to take our colleagues to the next step. So thank you very much, and pleasure to be here. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Asitha, for an insightful and wonderful keynote presentation. I'm sure the audience who joined us via Zoom and Facebook Live learned a lot. And to sum up everything you said, I can say simply in terms that our generation would understand, you only live once. So live your life to the fullest and do anything you do with ethicality and integrity in mind. So up next, ladies and gentlemen, we have a wonderful array of panelists ready to answer our questions and give their understandings and insights in brief. So may I invite on stage our first panelist for the day, Ms. Gauri Rajan. She is currently the director of Sunmatch Company Private Limited. Ms. Gauri, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Nicholas. And at the outset, let me congratulate the Rotractors for staging this session. And I'm humbled to share my thoughts. Of course, I echo every word of our keynote speaker today. He basically covered everything. And what I would actually like to emphasize on one point is that getting into a job is like a hand in glove, meaning you must carefully understand not only your job function, the job role, but also the culture of the company, the immediate boss to whom you will be reporting, and or probably who the leader of that company, and see whether you fit this glove. Because you need to understand when you get a job, that person has to adapt into the company's culture, and that is important. So if this marriage is ideal, then the best version of yourself will come out, meaning you will be at your ultimate performance. So do your research, because through maybe informal networks, maybe from your friends, and maybe people who work there, as to how the entire the setting or the culture of the company is. And if you feel you don't fit into that glove, my advice is don't waste your time, as well as don't waste the time of the interviewer as well. And remember that these days, everything is available on digital media, on social media, the digital footprint. So even you can get information of the company. Likewise, even your employer can find everything about you even before the interview. So as long as the objectives are clear on both parties, I recommend that you make use of it. And one more point also I like to touch on is, now, for instance, I'm a director of a family-owned company. We do have other shareholders, but then the majority belongs to the family. So it's not like a PLC or a multinational company or anything like that. But I have found sometimes the millennials, I would say, who try to come to our company and try to see whether it's like walking into a Unilever or something else. So if your perception of joining a company is maybe another multinational company, I think you must go there. That's what I said. It's very important you identify the culture and see whether you fit in there. Otherwise, that marriage will never work. So these are just two points I thought I must emphasize. Over to you, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gauri, for your wonderful insights. Up next, we have Ms. Manohari Abesekara. She is currently a director at Nations Trust Bank and serves as the chairperson of the audit committee. Ms. Manohari, the floor is all yours.
Hello, Nicholas. I also echo Gauri's sentiments. I think Asitha captured it all very well, and he covered most of the ingredients. I would like to give a different dimension, especially for millennials. I think now is the time not to go behind a job. You have so much of opportunities to become entrepreneurs. 20 years ago, like Asitha said, our parents wanted us to be doctors, engineers. We had this narrow path when we didn't have much opportunities. So where we had to study, go to a traditional university, get a degree, plus add a CIMA or some qualification, and then walk into the career. But now, I think the success is with the digital world. Youngsters should either, even if you have a career, my suggestion is to have a second source of income. Have something for your own, because that will support you, especially in times of uncertainty like COVID. So career is not the end. You know, I've seen even from my university, University of Colombo, I get numerous requests to attend career fairs to guide the undergraduates. But I urge my undergraduates not just to go behind the career. you have so much of opportunities. If you go to America, if you go to US, what universities teach is totally different. You have empty incubation labs where you are told to come up with your own business models, come up with your own creation. So that is what I think Sri Lanka's education system need to change to, rather than just passing undergraduates and filling them to the private sector or the public sector. We need to create, not all can be entrepreneurs. There need to be a balance of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs like us who are professionals. But I think there's so much opportunities for youngsters to, like Asitha said, identify your passion, your strengths, and then focus on what you can do, especially with the online, capitalize on the online markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari, for a different view of how entrepreneurship can actually change the way we think. And up next, our final panelist of the day, I think Mr. Sanjeev Jayaratnam can back your point, since he's an entrepreneur himself. He is currently a transformational coach and a change enabler, the CEO of Revelations Professional Education. Mr. Sanjeev, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Nicholas, and hi to all the other three panelists. Asitha, that was a great talk. I learned a lot as well. Thank you so much. Just to build on one point that Asitha made. See, when we go for a job, most of the time we are trying to see what the company can give us. Yeah, what we can get out of the company. See, everybody is trying to find that, isn't it? As someone who has done a lot of interviews over the years of young people, fresh graduates, especially when I was working at IFS some years ago, we used to do a lot of interviews of fresh graduates from Pinnaduwa and various places, IT graduates specifically, and everybody wants to know what they can get. Very few people will actually come for the interview trying to see what they can do for the company. Yeah, what is the value that you can add? And as someone who's interviewing a young person, I would be very interested to see what they want to give, how they can contribute, how they can add value to the company. And because nobody is actually thinking this way, if you do, you immediately stand out from the rest of the crowd, isn't it? Right? There's a huge difference, because you're looking to see, okay, how can I contribute? And if that is your intention, if that is what is in your mind, if you're always thinking, what can I do? What can I contribute? How can I add value to the company? Well, facing the interview is going to be very easy. Yeah, because it's going to be genuine. Asitha was talking about integrity. Yeah, very important. Integrity is something very important. You're going to be genuine, and you're going to come across as being genuine, as somebody being genuinely interested in helping the organization. And definitely, if you add value to any organization that you join, for sure you will get your rewards as well in time. Yeah, so just wanted to add that point before we get into the questions, I guess. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay, for that insight to make your interview a two-way street, where the interviewers will get to know what you will do to the company and enable to make a meaningful change in your new job role. So before we start the Q&A session, just a kind reminder, please keep yourselves on mute and your microphones as well as your cameras off, so that the questions won't be disturbed. And if you have any questions that you all need answered, please drop it on the chat box. If we can't answer it during the session, we'll make sure to email you with the answers after consulting the panel. So to kick off the Q&A session, Ms. Gauria, the first question will go to you. What are the good platforms to look for a job in the current situation we are facing?
Well, I guess there are many platforms. If you look at Sri Lanka, it's the top jobs or the LinkedIn and all that. But then since you are a road tractor and it is organized by the road tractors, let me tell you, like, the best of the jobs are not, people don't get it by advertising, but mainly they get it by networking. And you as road tractors I think you all are thrown at you all have a wonderful platform where you can network with the movers and the shakers of this country. Because if you look at the best bankers or the best printers or the best healthcare products, the key guys of all of those companies are all in Rotary. So as the youth group of the Rotary sponsored organization, you have actually an opportunity to directly work and get mentored by all these people. So now say you have a wonderful platform where your good work can be projected. Now, example, your current DRR Kasun Sigera, I know he's doing a fantastic work, and the work he does. I know your youth service chairman, Dr. Rohanta Athukorale, is all the time showcasing that to most of us. And also if you take the Interact DIR, so anytime, if there is an opportunity, there's an opportunity to pick such talent, because it's all about honing your skill set and how you could project it out. So it's the network that's important. And I think because you all are Rotractors, think of using that platform as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gauri, for relating it to our movement as well. And just to clear what Ms. Gauri said, it's not asking favors from our fellow Rotractors or Rotarians. It's showing your talent and them actually offering you jobs and offering you opportunities. So up next, we have a question for Ms. Manohari. So what do you think an interviewer expects from a candidate? Manohari, you're on mute. If you can unmute yourself. Yes, thank you.
I think the first impression is very important, especially the first 2 to 3 minutes that you enter, how you enter to how you knock the door and enter into the interview room, and the confidence. I mean, you need to stand tall with a pleasing personality, the basic etiquette of your shaking hands, and I stress on eye contact. That is very important. I really make it a point to look at my interviewee and to see whether he or she looks at my face. That eye contact is very important, so that I have this trust with the interviewee and I could share my feelings or express whatever. Like Asitha said, first, before you come to an interview, you need to have a background search of what the company is. I mean, you have the website, the annual report, there are plethora of information, public information on the job, and plus who is going to interview you. So if you can get an opportunity of who the panel is going to be, look at their LinkedIn profiles and familiarize yourself with the interviewer and just to see what their interests are. And then I think the very common question that you ask is briefly describe about yourself and your achievements. Even that, what we expect is like in the Toastmasters, a brief 1 minute or 2 minute description. You need to summarize who you are and position and pitch it within the first, like 2 to 3 minutes. That's it. Not a long, lengthy description. Plus your attitude, what you want to do, and how, like Sanjeev said, how can you help the organization grow? Communication skills. So it's a combination of, I would say, your educational skills, your communication. It's a combination, and I think there's an element of luck as well in life. So all things have to combine for your selection.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari, for that wonderful answer. So, Mr. Sanjeev, I think you have a very important question here. And since you're a transformational coach and a change enabler, what does a candidate need to do before they face an interview? How should they prepare themselves?
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. Right, so as Asitha also mentioned, getting to know about the company that you're going to the interview is, I think, very important. I have had people come in for interviews to meet me, not really knowing sometimes what is the organization about. I think these people are what I call serial applicants. They apply to any job that is out there. Yeah, I'm sure Manohari and Asitha may have come across these people as well, right? So I asked them, okay, so what do you think we do here? And they are looking blankly at me. What do you do? They're asking me, what do you do, right? So obviously they are not going to get any job. Okay, they don't know anything about the role, neither do they know anything about the organization. So today it's easy to do research about any organization. It's all out there. As Asitha was saying, when he came into the workforce, you could the internet was there, but when I got into the workforce, it wasn't even there. Right? So it was slightly different, right? But we still made an effort to try to find out something about the organization that we were trying to join, because otherwise why should someone hire you, right? Unless they see that you are interested in this place. So that is one thing you need to do: prepare. What is this organization about? How can you add value to this organization? What is the job you're applying for? What does this job entail? What do you think you'll have to do? Then you can also actually prepare for the questions that you would most probably be asked, isn't it? Lots of standard questions. Yeah, of course, I like to enjoy doing an interview. I enjoy doing an interview. So I would always try not to ask the standard questions. So I might ask a question like, okay, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Which means the guy has to think now. And whatever the answer that he gives, the next question from me would be, so why are you choosing to be that kind of tree? And there is a discussion that goes on there, right? Because what I'm trying to find out is, what is this person's character? What can they do? What are their values? Why are they who they are? What have they done? Yeah, it's not the CV, right? And having a qualification is a great thing, but your qualification is there only to get you to the interview. Your qualification will not get you further than that. It won't get you the job, right? The qualification just gets you to the interview. Why is that? Because today everybody has qualifications, isn't it? Right? Almost everyone has an MBA today. Of course, the qualities of those MBAs are vastly different. Yeah, I used to lecture at a number of different places: PIM, Moratuwa, Imperial Institute, IIT, all of these places, right? And what I found was the standards of education at these places was quite different. Yeah, so it's an MBA that you have, but sometimes you ask this person with an MBA a question, and he doesn't know how to do it. So he has the piece of paper, but not able to actually execute, not able to do the job. So what's the point? So don't just collect qualifications for the sake of collecting qualifications, but look at the knowledge. What is the knowledge you're going to have and how you can contribute? So preparation. You can think what kind of questions would be asked and how am I going to answer this? Manohar was talking of the famous question, first question that you asked, tell me about yourself. And something that used to greatly amuse me was, let's say Nicholas comes for the interview and I greet him saying, hi Nicholas, please take a seat. So I've already used his name, so he takes a seat. Then I say, so Nicholas, tell me about yourself. You know the first thing he says, my name is Nicholas Alexander. Yeah, why is that? Because that's what he has prepared to say, that's what he has planned to say, right? And he would say it anyway. Why should he say that? Why should he give his name again? I've already addressed him by his name, which means I know it, right? So we have to think, right? And it's not tell everything about yourself. It is to say the highlights, what you think will matter in helping the person interviewing to see whether you actually fit the role. So those are some things that we can actually prepare prior to the interview. Just one more thing. If you're not sure how to get to the place where you're going to have the interview, do a dry run the day before. Yeah, do a dry run. If you're going to go for a physical interview, you're not sure exactly where the bus stops or where the train stops or how far is this to this place, what the traffic conditions are at that time of the day. Yeah, so what I would do is I would actually go either very early so that I am not stressed out and I'm on time. One of the worst things you could do is to be late for your interview. Yeah, you're already starting off on the back foot, you're already starting with a bad first impression, and the first impression is really important. You start with a bad first impression, very difficult to recover. So preparation, including things like how do I get to this place. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you very much for a good description and the importance of what we should do. And Ms. Manohari, to sum up what Ms. Manohari said is always be ready with an icebreaker to break the ice in your interview panel. So before we carry on with our Q&A session, just want to highlight one thing. Ms. Gauri Rajan, she is a very prominent figure in our movement. She is the first female governor to be elected to serve Rotary Sri Lanka and Maldives. PDG Gauri Rajan, the next question is to you. How can a person with low self-confidence face a successful interview?
Well, I of course would say naturally for anybody when they are facing an interview, of course they might be stressed, but then if the person is, as you say, has low self-esteem, I would recommend that you go through your CV very well, understand what you have actually written, understand in detail everything that you have written, because I know sometimes some people just copy and paste. It doesn't even really describe them. And for you to gain more confidence, I would recommend you either speak to a close friend of yours, ask them to go through your CV, pick the good points, and maybe advise you on where are the key areas to improve. So be open-minded about it. And when you're going for the interview, always go with a positive mind. Now, I know the earlier speaker, Manohari, she said about luck. And that's true. And it just reminds me of one of a lecturer, for MBA lecturer from Kandy, whom I know as a friend. He in fact published his publication that he did for his doctorate, actually, was on what is luck. And that was all about finally how he came up with the description of luck, and it is actually positive attitude and confidence. Both together, actually, that formula is what luck is all about. So maybe I would say listen to a TED talk, listen to some music, and never go with a negative framework for an interview. See yourself in the mirror just before the interview in the morning, before you leave your home. If you see a happy face, well, I think you're on the right track. But if you see a sad face or a stressed face, then that's it. It's a disaster. Over to you, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, PDG Gauri Rajan. The next question is for Mr. Sanjeev. How can we face interview questions without getting nervous and have our confidence intact? But sometimes you're bombarded with questions and you might get nervous. You might not know the answer. Even you want to be honest, sometimes a lie might pop out because of the nervousness. How can we balance that feeling and go ahead when it comes to facing an interview?
Okay, it's actually very simple. Don't look at it as an interview. Just think of it as a conversation, as a chat. Yeah, none of us would feel nervous to go and have a chat with someone, right? Yeah, but as soon as you say it's an interview, you are making it where you are putting more pressure on yourself, you are putting more stress on yourself, but you just think of it as a chat. Actually, lots of really good organizations today don't say please come for an interview. They would say could you come and meet me for a chat at 9 o'clock on Monday. And even the chat is not in a formal setting. It's sometimes in a coffee shop. It's sometimes just seated side by side on a couch. And even the person interviewing today tries to make the interviewee feel more comfortable. So we don't actually have to be nervous if we just think of it as a conversation, as a chat. And then if it's a chat, say I'm having a chat with Manohari and she asks me a question, I have to think, what am I going to say, and then I need to answer. Yeah, and if I don't know the answer, I'll tell her I don't know the answer. Why should it be anything different? I think we try to put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we are trying to portray something that we are not, or we are trying to be something that we are not, and we are trying to create an impression that is actually not us. Be yourself. Be yourself, and if yourself is good enough, right, and you fit the role, then you will actually succeed. We don't have to pretend to be someone we are not. We can just actually be ourselves. I'm not sure. Did I answer the question, Nicholas? So somewhere there.
I think so. I think you're on track.
Okay.
Having a conversation with our interviewees is the easiest way that we can actually keep our self-confidence and have lack of nervousness. And as Mr. Asitha said, our keynote speaker always be ethical and have integrity, and honesty is very important. I think I sum up the full answer you gave, Mr. Sanjeev.
Yes, that's great.
So we have the next question for Ms. Manohari. It's a bit of a personal thing. If you this question, would you select a person based on their school, university, appearance, communication skills, age? Because sometimes people apply for jobs with low ages and they might have got rejected. Personally, I know a few of my friends who have got rejected because of their age, even they are qualified. So what is your opinion on that?
I think none of those really matter. For me, it is the attitude and the confidence that you irrespective of your age or your qualifications. As Sanjeev said, the qualifications is just an entry for you to be interviewed. But the confidence and the body language, the attitude, I would put about 60 to 70% of my score on those soft skills and the attitude, and what can you do to the company, and how do you envision yourself in 5 to 10 years now? Where do you want to be? I mean, you should know your purpose of life. And so I generally don't, I know generally, you see in Colombo schools, they say your role is to Thomian or Visaka. But for me personally, it was never issue. Plus in my career at Haley's, I've always tried to give a helping hand to the rural students who have come up in their life. And I really admire them. Especially we come from Colombo schools and we, I think, had a easier pathway in our lives. But to really give you a helping hand to a rural youngster, I have recruited a couple of them, and now they are very successful in their careers. Some have gone abroad, come back to Sri Lanka. It was even the communication skills. I really don't really look at it that way. If it's like a financial role, I know from sales and marketing, communication is very important. But if you're an analyst, I would see, not just the communication skills, but he or she's willingness to learn English. We've recruited some really talented youngsters who came from rural schools, and today, now they are very good they're very fluent in English. So English was never a barrier, but your willingness to learn English, I would say that is the important thing. Your willingness to learn, to adapt, and to improve yourself, and your dream. Every one of us have a dream and what you want to be. So all those are my requirements. Not just where you come from. You can change. And another thing, Nicholas, irrespective of where you come from, which background, I think education is a great level of inequality in society. If you are educated, you can go past all these social inequalities, but you need to have that ambition. And and integrity, honesty, those are not just words. You really have to practice that. And you should have the guts, even I can say to the young professionals, not just for the entry level, you need to have the guts to say even no, even at a board meeting. You need not to just go and just do what the majority say. You should have the conscience to say what's right. So I expect that has to come from the upbringing of a young person. So be always true to yourself, and you can achieve in your life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari, for that insightful answer. Up next, we have a question from one of the audience members. If everyone in the panel could contribute, it will be highly appreciated. What kind of answer should a person give when they are asked, why should we hire you? Mr. Asitha, can you take up this question, please? Mr. Asitha? I think there must have been a small connection issue with Mr. Asitha. Mr. Sanjeev, can you give your feedback on this question?
So the question is, why should we hire you, is it?
Yes, so we have got a question saying, if the interview board asks, why should we hire you, what kind of answer should be given?
Sure. So as I think all of us have been discussing, it's a competitive situation, isn't it? Right? There might be just one vacancy and 100 people trying to get the job. Yeah. So why should we hire you? If you have done your preparation, you would know the answer. Right? So it's all about what is the value that you can bring to the organization, and that would be the answer to why should I hire you? Yeah. What are you going to do for the organization? How are you going to help us to grow? What are you going to, how can you help us to be better than we are? And if you can answer those questions, then that would give me the answer of why I should hire you, right? Because I would know, okay, I'm going to get all this value from you, which I might not get from someone else, right? So if somebody says, if somebody is coming for a sales job, yeah, and I ask them, why should I hire you? And they say, okay, I will do sales for you. Well, that's what everyone is going to say. That's the job, to do sales. So that's not going to be good enough, right? It has to be something extra. And just on this one point, I just want to add something else. I think finally, whatever qualifications we have, whatever experience we have, whether you get hired or not will come down to just one factor at the end of the day. And it's just one word with 4 letters beginning with the letter L. And it's basically, do they like you or not? Right? I have tried to analyze this and try to figure out, finally, why does someone get a job? Ultimately, it's because they like you. Yeah. Imagine if I'm recruiting Nicholas, right, and he's perfect on qualifications, perfect on experience, right? But just after talking to him for 5 minutes, if he annoys the life out of me at the interview, I will not recruit him, because I'm thinking, why, gosh, if I recruit the guy, he's going to annoy me every day. Right? So I'm definitely not going to recruit, right? So finally, when everything else is equal, it will come down to the likability factor, right? And that, I think, comes from being genuine, right? Thanks, Nicholas.
Ms. Asitha, do you have anything to add to that question? You had a bit of a connection issue. So the question is, if an interview board asks, why should we hire you? What should an answer be, for instance, like that?
I think no answer to that. I think Sanjeev covered it all.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else in the panel have a different answer, different perspective to add to what
you can also? I think you can also express what you could bring to the table. The integrity, your empathy towards various issues. Like, I'm very passionate of female, not a feminist, but I really like to see females coming up in the corporate ladder. So I always give them a nudge. So what you could bring to the table, and how unique you are compared to the rest. Why should we select you? So you need to know, you need to give that answer to us. Why should we select you? What do you bring to the table? What could be your values? What is your passion? Or, how could you take the company to the next level? So the passion, your hobbies, you could be an all-rounder, and especially your value set. That should match the organization culture.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari. And the next question is actually to you again. If a person is lacking communication skills, and if he or she is qualified, will you hire them? Or vice versa, if the person is having qualifications and lacking communication skills, will you still hire them?
See, when you are employed at a conglomerate like where I used to be, so naturally we have to select the best. But if there are, say, like management trainees, where we have the flexibility to recruit 10 or 15 more, then in that instance, yes, we will give an opportunity to a person who has the educational qualifications, but do not have the necessary communication skills. But there again, we tell the candidate, please join a Toastmaster program, speech crafter, improve yourself. And we would really monitor their progress during the next 2 years during the management training program. And if they're successful, then we will absorb them to our permanent cadre. So, but if it's just one vacancy, where we have only one vacancy for a particular job, then obviously we will need the communication skills. I mean, that's very important. So even at universities now, I think even the Sri Lankan universities, we are grooming our undergrads with Toastmaster clubs, and also giving them mock interviews to prepare themselves. And finally, there is now, the interviews are no longer happening on a physical environment. Right now, we do interviews through Zoom, Microsoft Teams. So the youngsters also need to be familiar on having a virtual interview. So that is how you portray yourself in a webinar. So all that confidence is required. So communication skills would be very important in my view.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari. PDG Gauri Rajan, do you have anything to add in that perspective? Will you hire a person with communication skills and lack of qualifications, or with a lot of qualification and lack of communication skills? Do you have any perspective to give from your end?
It depends on the kind of a job that person is. If it is a desk-oriented job, well, certainly as long as he can do the task, it's fine. Communication skills don't matter. But then there are key certain positions where communication skills is a requirement. So of course, I'm not referring to the qualification as such, but communication skills for certain roles is important, and we would certainly be looking at that.
So PDG Gauri, the next question is to you and the panel at large. We are in the new normal, and we are in the VUCA world. There is a lot of uncertainty going around because of COVID. What is the difference between a virtual and online interview? And sorry, let me rephrase that question. Between a face-to-face interview and an online interview, how should a person act different, or what should they do when it comes to online interviews? Because the physical touch is no more there. What should they do to stand out?
You see, an interview, I personally feel, is an interview because nobody is looking actually at the face and giving the job, but it is at the talent. So whether it is a physical interview or an online interview is not an issue, because you can see most of the business models have changed. And due to the pandemic, if you look at for the next 5 years, I'm sure 40% of the companies will collapse and another 40% will emerge. So already you can see so many board meetings and very other important meetings. In fact, even conferences are being held virtually without anything being diluted. In fact, just yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, the Brand Excellence Awards. This time it was, the judging was done on a hybrid basis, where even the people who would have generally been physically present were allowed to present their case online. But nothing was diluted. All were chosen based on their credentials, because I can say for it because I sat on the jury. So likewise, it doesn't matter whether it is an online interview or a physical interview. I don't think there is any special preparation other than maybe for one thing, maybe you need to log in early, ensure that your connections are in order. I think basically that is what I can think of. And other than that, I think it's just the same. As long as the purpose is the same, online, physical, it doesn't make a difference. I hope I have answered you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. PDG Gauri. Mr. Asitha, do you have anything to add for this when it comes to virtual interviews and physical interviews?
Well, Nicholas, I think I almost echo what Gauri has said. End of the day, whether it's physical or virtual, interview is an interview. It's about how you express yourself, how you communicate yourself. So I think I can't think of anything that you should do differently, because the core substance which required remains same. So it's just a matter of the medium has changed, and not really the philosophy or the core requirement of the job will change based on, irrespective of it's a virtual or a physical meeting. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asitha. Up next, we have a question directed from our audience. What should we do in our CV before we send? Because the first thing the people get is the CV, the HR department, and then only a call for an interview. So how should we prepare in that perspective when it comes to a CV? Where sometimes people make 2 or 3 big page CVs, or some simply make just 1 page CVs. So for an undergrad or a person who is just finished their A-levels and left school and looking for a job, what is your opinion on how their CV should be there? Mr. Asitha, if you can take this question.
Yeah, great. So number 1, spell check. So that's the number 1 to me, because this is, again, I repeat what I said. So this is the age of information, and even now to do check grammar, not only the word, you have the Grammarly, there are multiple platforms that you can check your spelling and grammar as well. So you should not have any typo errors. Again, those such errors will reflect how underprepared you are. So that is actually one core area that I look at. And overloading information also, that's something should be look at it. Example, let's say if you are fresh immediately after school, then I think you may not have too much of working experience to demonstrate your capability. So at that time, you may demonstrate your other extracurricular activities, which has a direct correlation to the job that you're applying for. Example, if you're applying for accountancy, I mean, inserting about being the secretary of photography or wildlife may not really be relevant. So just check the relevancy, check the relevance, whether it's required to be. Otherwise, carrying 5 or 6 pages will not guarantee you a job. So because anyway the HR will not spend more than 10 seconds to read your job description, or rather your CV. So 1 to maximum of 2 pages. You should not exceed 2 pages. It should be less than 2 pages max, and nicely formatted. I mean, nowadays you get lots of new technological tools as well to demonstrate your technical skills and soft skills as well. So I mean, it's all up to you. I mean, those fancy looking CV will not make a material impact. What we'll be looking at this example, as some of the panelists said. Yeah, so the academic, the qualification will be looked at just to get through, as Sanjeev correctly said, to get you to the interview. So make it, keep the more relevant ones. Otherwise, don't have the standard one for each and every job that you apply for. Spend at least 5 or 10 minutes and to understand, because sometimes if you're applying for the food industry, then sending the same CV to an extent would be fine. But if you're applying for food and trading and manufacturing, sending the copy pasting the same information will not help you, because based on the industry, based on the requirement, I would suggest that you should customize based on the industry priorities, rather than your priority and convenience. and especially from undergraduates and school leavers. I would love to see people with extracurricular activities, because that shows that shows your commitment and being able to manage multiple responsibilities under pressure situations, because so that's kind of that's a kind of a testimony. But still, again, I repeat what I said. Add what is relevant. Not that your school leaving certificate should be copy and pasted to your job CV. Yeah, I hope I added some information.
Yes, Ms. Asitha. And just since you said there are a lot of new tools in creating CVs, and you can add a lot of a digital perspective to your CV, do you think linking your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and your social medias will be helpful to show transparency to the interviewers?
Yeah, of course, it does, because again, I reiterate, I do not promote directly or indirectly of these social media tools. But since you asked that question, I don't recommend as brands, right? But as a since we're in the age of the age of information, yes. So such your digital footprint really matters, actually. Because example, when I get a call, or when I get a request asking about a job, so first thing what I would do is I'll go and check what this person is actually up to. Because as I said during my session, sometimes what you would be communicating on a piece of paper or to your face-to-face could be completely different to what you post on your digital footprint. Sometimes, because what I must say is sometimes not LinkedIn, the other social media platforms are personal, so that may actually your views can be completely different, and you may tend to take a little bit of a relaxed approach, and you may communicate something completely different. So to me, it's a opportunity for me to do a little bit of checks and balance to see whether this person's audio is aligned to his video. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Asitha. Mr. Sanjeev and Ms. Manohari and PDG Gauri, do you all have anything else to add in that perspective? Linking in our social media feeds, do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea when it comes to a CV? PDG,
I think naturally we would look at the LinkedIn profile, especially for senior positions. We would naturally look at the LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is very important. Plus, I think references, good references from 2 or 3 is very important for us, because if it's a senior role, we'll naturally look at who the referees are. We might speak to the referees and get some of his background checks. So what you post, perhaps I know it's an invasion of privacy, but you can't help as interviewers. Sometimes we would look at their profiles and see what their interests are. I mean, you can kind of guess from the feeds. So you need to be mindful that whatever, especially LinkedIn, that the content is professional. Not gossip or not those. So otherwise, what you portray in your CV and what you portray in your social media personality is quite different. So ideally, it should be almost the same. We should not have 2 different personalities clashing. So it's an invasion of privacy of someone's life, but we have to, survive in this digital world. Thank you.
PDG Gaurarajan, do you have anything to add in that perspective?
Yes, I agree. Of course, we also do check on the social media accounts of the people who are joining, who are being recruited. It's natural. And having said that, I also know that many are very much more intelligent, as you do have another side and you do handle your privacy settings. So the public information is different, and whatever you do outside, I know you have your privacy settings. So sometimes all that we see on social media is also not 100% correct. I hope I have answered you, Nicholas.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, PDG Gaurarajan. So we, due to the constraint of time, we have time for 2 more questions. And Ms. Manohar, the next question is directed at you. How has the new normal affected the current job market? Because people are finding it hard to get into jobs, undergraduates, and people who are with jobs also under salary cuts and under different stress levels. So how has this affected the VUCA world? How has it affected the new job market?
I think this COVID has really, turned the job market upside down. I mentor to lots of my youngsters and see, especially in banks and multinationals, sometimes there has been pay cuts, retrenchments, where not just the people who leave the company, the remaining staff has to take overload of work. And some of these youngsters are working 10 in the night, 11 in the night, because you think in the physical world pre-COVID, we used to come at 9 or 6. That was apart from the general students, like 9 to 6 was the normal working life. But now the companies are having webinars or web calls, video conferencing even at night. So I think there should be some kind of a decency, especially for the corporates, to respect the employees' freedom. And I really think that we should, you might have video calls or whatever conferences late night, but that should not be every day. And people are really under stressed. I get so many calls from my young mentees, and they're struggling, not just because of the pay cuts. It's the work pressure, and they are always, all the time, their bosses are asking for various kind of reports. So I think as corporate leaders, we also should not, we should be mindful of, scheduling our video calls with our employees. I see sometimes it's very sad. Especially you have these lengthy video conferences, going through your monthly updates, budgets. It clashes with your lunchtime, and still the meetings are continuing. Sometimes you are not even given time to, take a few minutes break to go to the washroom and come back. So I think it is the leaders of our Sri Lankan society. It's okay to have calls and video calls, but we need to be mindful to give our employees a break. Give them, a biological break time after 1 hour or 2 hours, and be sensitive. Have the empathy. Sometimes you get young mothers, you can hear their toddlers crying, so it's under very different circumstances, and all don't have luxury homes. They're struggling with the IT infrastructure. So I think empathy is required from corporate leaders when they get work done remotely, because it's not fair. I've seen sometimes the CEOs comment, okay, we pay you, and now you have the luxury to work from home. You don't need to travel. But I don't think that is the right attitude. Okay, certainly the traffic has eased down. We can work from home, but there are problems, especially young couples. They go through a lot of difficulties working from home, especially when there is no support staff to take care of their children. So the new norm also has given various opportunities. I've known a couple of even I have a young daughter. She does all this tuition online, and the tuition teachers, they're wonderfully, they're well equipped to do online teaching and make money. I know sometimes the teachers are now not restricted to Sri Lankan students. They are now giving tuition to overseas students. So now the vistas are, the boundaries are gone. You can sell your services overseas. Today, I've got one of my friends, doing online shopping, like having online store in Facebook and selling spices, tea, and some are having eBay accounts. So there are quite a lot of opportunities that the youngsters could also think about. Because with the digital world, I think you should look at what the opportunities are, especially you're not limited to Sri Lanka. Even in LinkedIn, you could see various companies, headhunters, they are calling for applications from overseas. So gone are the days that you're limited to join a Sri Lankan company. Now from remotely, you can work for overseas company. So flexi times. My appeal is to the professionals to have an empathy to your young team, your staff, and don't take them granted just because they're working from home. Because I've seen that people are really stressed out sometimes, and I see that in especially the young mothers and fathers. Coming from a personal point of view, I've worked for Haley's for the last 18 years, and I was offered a VRS. That was 2 months ago. And it is a kind of a shock because you work for a company so closely, it's your second home. And then the management thinks, okay, that VRS is the next best thing, you kind of take it. So there are challenges, not just on the entry level, even senior level professionals. We all go through challenges in times like this. But you should take it. If I personally feel if an organization doesn't want us, then we are not that we should move out, and we should not hesitate to move out. And so life is a challenge. It's not a bed of roses, but you should have the courage to move on in your life. And that's why I'm saying career is not the end in the world. You have various opportunities. Even the stock market, if you're smart enough, if you have invested your funds a few months ago, today you would have doubled your investment. So there are opportunities. Always read the newspapers, be financially literate, get to know fund investments, investing your savings, and also when you're spending, especially in a time like this. I come as a director of National Savings Bank, which is the premier savings bank of Sri Lanka. We want to inculcate the habit of savings. So even as a Buddhist, Lord Buddha, what he quoted was, at least 1/4 of your earnings need to be saved, so that in a rainy day, like what we are going through, like in COVID, you have some savings. Now, we feel the daily earners, like the three-wheeler drivers, the grassroots society, they are struggling right now due to COVID is because they did not have a proper saving. So the saving habit needs to be inculcated from a very young life. Plus, I also say, like, have a small insurance fund, start your retirement planning, all that start from a young age. Be a good investor and don't spend, try to save and invest wisely in your career. Don't spend everything on a fancy car. That's what most millennials do. The first thing they do is buy a car and then they buy a luxury home. But read what Warren Buffett or some other key investors say. Invest in assets that are yielding money, not non-depreciating assets. So have a second source of income. Don't just limit yourself to one career. So these are my tips on how to dealing with in a COVID environment, in the new norm.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manohari, for that detailed answers. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure it's not the end. If you don't get into a job or if you lose your job, you can always find inspiration within and start something on your own. So this is the final question for tonight, and it's directed at Mr. Sanjeev. As an entrepreneur, as a transformational coach and a change enabler, people have to go to many interviews before they get a job. Sometimes people might go for 15, 16 interviews. And still, if they don't even get a second call, how should they keep their self-confidence and be motivated to apply and somehow get a job? Because during this current situation, it's very hard to find employment. For undergraduate, even as Ms. Manohari said, even for senior management, it's a tough time. So what is your opinion and what is your advice when it comes to people that find it hard to find jobs and who actually lost their motivation to apply to jobs as well?
Okay, so if you have been trying to get a job for a while and you keep applying and you're not actually being successful, well, one thing you could try to do is to see, I think as a number of our speakers said today, to maybe look at starting something on your own as well. Yeah, because today actually there are unlimited, truly unlimited things that you could do. You could start so many things just from your bedroom itself. You don't even have to step out. Yeah, so much that can be done. But if you actually want to get a job, don't be discouraged. There are so many examples of people who kept failing, right? Yeah, but we need to set our sights on the horizon and see, okay, this is not for me, that's why I didn't get it, but something is going to come along, right? They say this famous story about Edison. I don't think it's true, but the famous story was that he failed to invent the light bulb 9,999 times before he finally succeeded. Yeah. Then it says that Colonel Sanders, when he was trying to start KFC, he went round to so many people at the age of 65 and was rejected by everyone. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 20-something publishers before she finally got a publisher who was willing to publish Harry Potter for her. Right, so don't give up. If you believe in yourself and you believe that you have something good, well, maybe you're not getting the job because the job is not right for you. Maybe the next job is going to be the one that you're going to succeed in. So don't give up. Don't give up. We have to keep moving forward. And as Manohari said, opportunities are endless. Opportunities are endless, not only in Sri Lanka, overseas as well. Yeah, boundaries are broken down. Geographies no longer matter. So COVID has had its challenges, but it has also had a lot of opportunities. So don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Pick yourself up. Just a final thing, Sylvester Stallone, in one of the Rocky movies, his character says, okay, it doesn't matter how many times you get hit and how many times you fall down. What matters is how fast you stand up again. Yeah, so keep moving forward and you will then finally succeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjeev, for that motivational, inspirational answer. PDG, Gauri, do you have any closing remarks before we close the session? Any advice for fellow job hunters who are present in the audience today?
Well, if it is related to the COVID environment, I echo the sentiments of all other speakers. I, of course, take it as an opportunity where you expand your limits, because even if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, if you see the original list, within the first 50 years, only 18% survived. Others, either they merged or name changed or they collapsed. And if you really go to see why those 18% only survived, is because of their ability to change, ability to be agile. It was for that very reason. So likewise, I of course think this, of course it's a sad thing that one virus could do this to us, but then I think it's that power to expand your limits is within you. So there are many companies who have actually taken this as an opportunity, who have grown, who have become very aggressive. They have diversified into other areas. And even Manohari, I liked what she said about whoever thought that the banks would not, if you invest in a bank, you won't get more than 6% on your FD during this time. But then it's rather that you invest that in the shares. Naturally, it will every day, in fact, it grows by 50%, 60%. So whoever thought, and regarding the job hunters, don't ever think that you have to go out there for somebody to give you an opportunity. You just seek within you. There are opportunities. You can be an entrepreneur. You can always look out for something, but it all depends on how genuine and how sincere you are in your search to get that job. If you are not, if you are just being a passenger, well, nothing will ever work, whether it is COVID or pre-COVID, because now it's COVID. Maybe with these vaccines and all that, we may come out of it. But then in the future, you never know, we might have another pandemic. So at that time, what do you say? So if you really seek, you will definitely find an answer. I don't agree to the fact that there are people hunting for jobs that they cannot get. I, of course, personally feel that they have not tried enough, because getting a job alone is not the end game. There are other ways. Over to you, Nicholas.
Thank you, PDG Gauri. Mr. Asitha, before we conclude, do you have any closing remarks to add to this question? How to stay motivated despite not getting a job, losing a job, and be in track, or to how to find inspiration within? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, so I think life will give you different challenges at different times. Especially, I think one of my coach. So everyone got coach. So I also have a coach. So once I didn't get my get a job that I was badly looking for, then I still remember what he told me. He said, "Hey, look, Asitha, don't worry. I know that in terms of capabilities, in terms of you had all what it takes to get that job. Just that when you go to the job market, it's like going to a beauty pageant of Miss Sri Lanka, right? Because sometimes no one really knows what the criteria is. Sometimes you think that this person will get it, but someone completely different to what you thought will walk away as a winner. So it's very subjective one. So as other speakers also said, we should not get demotivated. It's just a matter of keep on trying, keep on pushing. And also, if you are rejected, I mean, it's always best to ask for a review meeting if possible. Some organizations do offer that opportunity. So basically, they will tell you these were the reasons. These were the areas that scored very well, and these were the areas that you didn't do well. And had you structured this particular area much better, you could have nailed this opportunity much better. Likewise, certain organizations will give you that opportunity, even if the prospective employers culture is not as such. Still, I mean, by all means, you should have the courage to go and ask, hey, look, can I know? I mean, what are they? Not as a justification why my application is rejected, but in a more positive manner, to ask to get the honest feedback on how did I do, because I'm really keen to get into this sort of a space. And as a young person, will you please let me know how can I improve myself? So get that feedback from the panel of interviews or panel of judges, and get that feedback, and go back to drawing boards and understand where you went wrong, and perfect it, rehearse, practice, master it, and do it repetitively during the next couple of interviews that you face, because life got so much of opportunities. Sometimes it will give you different opportunities. It's all about how we adapt and how we build on it. So that's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asitha, and thank you very much to the audience who joined in. I hope it was an insightful and wonderful presentation, and hope you all learned a lot out of it. Just before we close, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Mr. Asitha, for taking time off Saturday evening and delivering the keynote, and our wonderful panelists, Mr. Sanjeev, PDG Gauri, and Ms. Manohari. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you dedicating our time to making our event a success. And ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude today's session, always remember, be ethical, have integrity, never give up, follow your passion, and find inspiration within. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you,
Good night.
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much, panel.